You hear these things all the time. Eat the pain, drive through it, swallow your fear. Whatever these things are, I have to say that I believe that that kind of training is needed. But I think looking back, what it did for me was 6 months of that forging process. Part of what happened was I was able to turn those emotions off. I couldn't have empathy. I couldn't have fear. I couldn't have sadness. Most of these guys, 18, 19, 20 years old, are still developing emotionally as adults. And at that young age, you learn or you're taught how to turn those off. You go through your career, however long that may be. Mine was 21, and when my time came to an end and I got out, I didn't get any training to turn my emotions back on.
When people are told to suck it up, pack it up, compartmentalize when they show distress, they stop showing the distress. And what it does is it has a far more debilitating impact on them for life. And that's what's happening, right? Is that they don't show it, and then 20 years later, they don't know how to deal with it when it finally starts coming out. They don't know what the distress is, they don't know how to label it, they don't know how to identify it, and they don't know how to cope with it.
I think the biggest challenges are just how we deal with things from a mental health aspect. Being in a community where we are all alpha dogs, kind of hard to be able to turn off that switch and switch gears.
We're very competitive, extremely competitive. I think guys kind of suffer from well, I'm not going to say anything because there's Mikey over there. Mikey's not saying anything. He's good, but Mikey's hurting. He's just not telling you. And then all of a sudden, you're hurting and you're pushing. And then it's this domino effect. It can lead to some detrimental things down the road.
We as SEALs we have a lot of pride. We don't want to openly admit we need some help somewhere along the line.
I was too stubborn to go ask. I was just of the mindset, I can figure this out on my own, and I can solve it, I can do it. I don't need anybody's help.
We put a lot of barriers in front of ourselves, and then sometimes people look at psychological issues and complaints and experiences as different than physical issues, complaints, and issues. I think we can appreciate the fact that mental health is equally as relevant and potentially more important in some cases.
There are these two core vulnerabilities that give rise to suicide. The first is what's known as emotion dysregulation. Emotion dysregulation is the capacity to recognize how we're feeling, and then secondly, to be able to do something to change that internal state. The second key vulnerability is cognitive rigidity. It's this all or nothing, black or white, one or the other mindset.
Getting over the hump of, I haven't done anything worthy to be able to take advantage of these services because I'm standing on shoulders of giants at this point. I'm not worthy of doing that.
What you get over and over again is, I'm not worthy. There's someone else who needs this more than I do. Someone else is having a tougher time than I am. Don't help me, go help them. And they will actually refuse some of the help that's offered that you know that they need. The other problem we run into is that what's normal for naval special warfare isn't normal for anybody else.
One of the vulnerabilities of cultural competence is simply staying so deep within what we do that deviations from the baseline look normal for our population.
I think oftentimes we forget that, there's a broader reference group out there beyond the teams. But you see over the course of a person's career that there's almost a narrowing of their contacts and their interactions with people outside the team room. And so that can create this kind of false sense of where the norm really is. When an operator turns to a peer and says, hey, is this normal for you? And so that norm can be shifted.
When the community shifts, it in essence changes the set point for all of us who belong to the community. When, a service member, an operator comes in and says, well, everybody's doing it, or this is kind of the norm, this is just who we are, this is our culture, for us to say, well, perhaps for you as a person, though, it's not really working all that well.
When we normalize deviations, we have a big concern, because we're taking what are societal norms and norms even in the warfare community or others, and starting to move them in one directionality or another. And then the reset never comes back to the middle. The reset goes to further and further extreme.
sometimes the perceived specialness of the community serves as a barrier because it isolates themselves. No one can understand me. I'm different. I'm special. I'm unique. And there are differences for sure about the profession and the career. But a big part of, I find, in the treatment process is really helping special operators to recognize the shared humanity that they have with others.
Psychological pain, the physical pain, everything else that we have normalized during training and during operations are not really normal. And you've got to go back and untrain or make sure they understand that this isn't who they have to be at this point.